Hey everybody, and happy Saturday. I hope you guys will have a great Labor Day. And for all my people down in Florida, just know that I am praying for you guys. I am hoping for the best. I have family, I have friends down there. And I know they're used to this weather, but it doesn't get any easier because I think it's the anxiety of not knowing. So I pray that this hurricane misses you guys. I pray for that. And with that, let's get on with this video. So, I know you guys have been watching the backlash coming at Dave Chapelle over the last few days. Different groups upset with him. Even Vice channel or Vice, whatever you want to call it, has called for his cancellation. Like, you know, people always want to cancel somebody, right? And so I was on Facebook yesterday and I saw this article from this group called Very Smart Brothas. Now, I follow them. And, you know, sometimes I agree with them, sometimes I don't. But this is one of those instances where I absolutely didn't even understand what they were attempting to do. So they posted this article from Breitbart, and they basically wrote up this think piece saying, all the worst white people love Dave Chappelle, Sticks and Stones. And so I'm just going to read to you what they said. It's not very long, and then we're going to go from there. It says, after the first few minutes of Chappelle's Sticks and Stones, I saw why it's become like Funny Games and Dana Schultz's Open Casket, one of those creative works where the reaction to and conversation about it cannibalizes the actual content. His primary objective seems to be provocation, not making a thing that lasts or something we want to come back and watch or rewatch, like the best stand-up compel us to do, but proving he can say what he wants and convince us to laugh at it too. And there's definitely a specific name for this trope, trolling. While trolling has earned its negative connotation, it can be weaponized for good, as Bomani Jones proves on Twitter pretty much every day. You can troll racists and low-information bigots, exposing them. But Sticks and Stones is mostly an hour of Chappelle trolling trans people, rape victims, gay people, and other hyper-vulnerable communities while defending famous millionaires. And something happened while watching it that has never happened to me while watching Dave Chapelle. I got up and did things around the house while it was still on. Not because of some deep offense, but because I was just bored with it. Defending the words and rights of powerful people is perhaps the most mundane and least transgressive thing an artist can do. And last night was trash pickup night, so I multitasked so I could get to bed at a decent hour. That said, there are also many who consider this to be one of his best performances. And among that group are trolls, professional bigots, white supremacists, Nazi sympathizers, and more of the very worst white people, an adoration due to the parallels between their sensibilities and his. And so after reading that, I started to go into the comments, and a lot of people were just as confused as I was about what they were attempting to do. Now, first of all, what the hell were they doing on Breitbart, knowing the kind of garbage that they put out, their kind of right-wing propaganda that they put out? But that's besides the point. A lot of people were very confused by what they were attempting to say. Are they saying that Dave Chapelle is the real, true, living version of Clayton Bigsby, one of his characters from Dave Chapelle? Remember, he did the black white supremacist? Are they saying that Dave Chapelle is a black white supremacist and that he basically did the work of the neo-Nazis and the bigots? Because I'm confused by all of that. Here you are giving all this energy to Dave Chapelle, a comedian, nonetheless a brilliant one in my opinion. And yet, Dave Chapelle has no power to enact change of any kind towards these groups that you are feeling that he's offended. Yet your president, the offender in chief, who offends everybody, by the way, including the very groups that you are so, sympathetic to at this very moment by what Dave Chapelle said, or didn't say, I should say. And yet the president of the United States is actually, affecting change. He's actually doing some changes to those very communities in which you're so hypersensitive about. Do you know that your president is actually changing laws and affecting change for trans people in the military? All right. Or even affecting laws as to say that employers can actually fire people and that these groups don't have any protection under the laws he is trying to get changed. So while you're sitting here giving Dave Chapelle all this energy, you probably want to direct that towards somebody that can actually have real change, and these changes can have real life consequences, not a comedian on stage telling jokes. Now, I knew that it would rile a lot of people. I knew that. We knew that on my first video. We saw that a lot of people were up in arms about Dave Chappelle comedy. And what was interesting to me in all of it is that what some people seem to miss is that he was, in my opinion, holding the mirror up to society and the hypocrisy of society by saying the things that a lot of people are thinking that don't really make sense in the first place. That was the funny part of it, in my opinion. Okay? Like the victim blaming. It was supposed to be completely insane. If you listen to it, I'm just sitting here thinking, like, if you really heard what he was saying, how on earth could you not see that he was pointing out the hypocrisy of it all? All right. Do you honestly think that he thinks that if a kid is molested, he was thinking, well, what were they wearing? Like, are you serious? It was jokes. It was truly pointing out the ridiculousness of society today and the hypocrisy of it. All right. And turning the mirror onto people themselves. It really was. That's how I looked at it. Okay. I get that a lot of people don't get his kind of comedy. They don't get his kind of humor. I still have to question those very people, including this dude from Very Smart Brothas, is why did you click on it? If you've ever watched any of Dave Chappelle's stand-ups, you know what he's going to bring. You know his angle. You know how he tells jokes. So why click on it? Did you think anything was going to be different? Okay, did you? And I was also very amused at some of the people that had like these immediate reactions to cancel Dave. And the minute you asked, well, did you watch the whole thing? No, I turned it off after 10 minutes. I heard this, and then I was like, no, I'm done. Without watching the full scope of it, and just formulating an opinion over one joke he made, decided you were disgusted and had enough, and you turned it off. I was watching Adrian Expression, who, again, I love Adrian. I do. No slight to Adrian, but I was disappointed, though, in his analysis of this. And let me explain why. Now, for the record, I think that everybody is entitled to feel the way they feel. I just like when people formulate an opinion based on the full context of something and don't just formulate an opinion based off of one little thing you heard and you're taking it out of context. And I feel like, although I always think that Adrian is pretty thorough about most things, he dropped the ball on this one. He did, in my opinion, because he was upset about the joke that Dave Chapelle made about the fact that when Dave went into the Comedy Central office and the lady said, hey, you can't say the F word. And he came back. He's like, wait. Okay, so why is it okay that I can say the N word with impunity? I can say it as much as I want, but I can't say the F word. And she's like, well, Dave, because you're not gay. And he was like, well, I'm not an N either. And that to me was the most intelligent, funny joke probably of the night. And there was a lot of them, but that was to me the most thought compelling joke because it really wasn't a joke. If you think about it, it wasn't a joke. How many times have you watched BET and you see that they want to beep out every word imaginable, but they won't beep out the N word? Have you ever thought about that? Why the N word just seems to flow so freely, but everything else is off limits? Okay. Even ass, which is ridiculous to me, but that's in the Bible, but whatever. But yeah. And so I thought Adrian got upset over that, and he basically said, no, I didn't watch the rest of it. It was terrible. It was horrible. It was lowbrow, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of his people who love Adrian, I was looking at his comments, even they were like, Adrian, you didn't even watch the whole thing. You took it out of context. Had you watched the entire thing, you would realize that when he was talking about, matter of fact, when he was talking about the LGBTQ community in the car, they riding together, it was so brilliantly done that a lot of people in the gay community was like, in the LGBT community was like, yes, that's exactly it. He was trying to explain the dynamics of this community and how even though they ride in the car together, they're very different. And had Adrian listened in, he would have heard some of the things that Adrian has said in the past. I'm like, Adrian, you missed it, because he said something about how the gay white man drives the car because he thinks he made the roads. He built the roads. He think, so if Adrian had to listen in, he would have thought to himself, because I've heard Adrian say how white gay men act, right? They think they're superior to everybody, that there is, even within the gay community, the LGBT community, there is people that don't like other groups. That wasn't so far-fetched. And I think that Dave Chapelle executed it brilliantly, in my opinion. All right. Do you honestly think, now listen, this is coming from somebody that's been molested. I don't find molestation funny. Do you? And that's why did I cringe when he did that part? Yes, of course. But at the same time, I saw what he was doing with it. I saw the nuances in which Dave Chapelle was telling the story. And even as well as I cringe, I still laughed because I'm like, this is actually funny, right? I think the problem here is that, and I've said this before, is that we live in a very hypersensitive society full of snowflakes where you can't say something about somebody, right? And some groups are far more sensitive than others. I do understand what's going on out here in this world and how some groups are discriminated against, but I just feel like, listen, what makes you think that you can't get the jokes too? What makes you think that you can't get the jokes too, that you should be, excused from jokes? If that was the case, do you understand? I remember when Damon Wayans used to have Handyman. Remember Handyman on Living Color? He wouldn't be able to do that joke today because of the way people are. But Bernie Mac used to tell the joke, bust their head to the white meat show. People would call CPS on Bernie Mac today if he was living and still doing that joke, the way society is set up. You cannot say anything about particular groups of people. And again, I know that everybody doesn't need to have to like it. I'm not saying that you have to like Dave Chapelle. Dave Chapelle don't pay me to say I like him or all this other stuff. No. My thing is, if you clicked on it, you didn't have to click on the video. If you know this is the kind of comedy, the kind of brand that he brings, why click on it? Because he's not going to be, he's unapologetic. I think that's one of the biggest things here is that he doesn't cave to certain groups. Now, the LGBT community, I'm going to give them credit for this. They are very powerful, okay? When they get together and they want something shut down, they shut it down. And one of the things I think is upsetting some of the people in the community is that they don't rattle Dave Chapelle. Dave Chapelle does not get rattled by that like Kevin Hart did. He does not waver. And if you had listened to it, you would have saw that. Me personally, I don't necessarily think it was offensive. But again, that's me. That's me. And I'm not a trans person and I'm not gay. But again, I saw a lot of gay and lesbian people and bisexual people. I was looking at one of their, I was on one of their pages and a lot of them loved it. They was like, yes, that is how we are. Yes, I'm a lesbian. And yes, that is exactly how gay men are to me, like that. They are just like that. That's all I'm saying is that if these are people, though, that watched it in its full scope. This is people that didn't take a snippet from Twitter and decided they hated it and panned it because they didn't like what he said here or there or here or there. Okay. He was on point about the opioid stuff. All right. But how does that make him a sympathizer to the Nazis, the neo-Nazis and the bigots and the racists? I don't know how they liked this comedy special, to be honest with you. I don't know how, but maybe what they got out of it is what the Democrats and the liberals need to be careful about. We are living in a society now where it has gotten so bad that you cannot have an opinion about anything. And this is coming from a person who grew up as a Democrat and who, for the most part, I think I'm pretty liberal when it comes to what I really just don't give a damn about how people choose to live their lives. I just don't. But I do have a problem when people try to constantly censor people about their opinions. I may not like your opinion, but I'm not going to censor your opinion. Now, those opinions could possibly come with consequences, and we know that. But I'm not going to attempt to censor it. And the problem with some of the liberals, the far left liberals, is that you can't say anything anymore. You cannot say anything anymore. You will be canceled. They will cancel you for something you said 57 years ago when you was in 7th grade. They will cancel you over some bull like that. And it's getting to the point now, if you keep going that way, where even comedians can't be politically incorrect, you're gonna stick the offender in chief right back into the White House because people are getting tired of being censored. They're tired of it. And they don't want to keep getting censored. And so this whole thinking of Dave Chapelle as some kind of like sympathizer to Nazis was just ridiculous to me. I just think very smart brothers, you got it wrong. I wish that some of you guys could just get the stick or the stone out of your ass that Dave Chapelle was talking about and just laugh sometimes.